is also probably not real. I mean, human beings are dealing with some serious
weird
shit that we think we say things like feet and inches. That's not real. Up and down is not real. Left and right is not real. When we start really getting into it, man, it becomes like
time is motion. Time is it is an illusion.
Time seems to be distance, but that's only what science says so far.
But distance is half of motion.
But distance is only going to be relevant if based on a universe we don't understand. So distance might not fucking be real either. You know what I'm saying? Like,
distance.
It gets super crazy.
To go into physics, distance.
The theory that everything is happening right now. That there is no.
If an object
back then,
so basically the way you perceive time, you understand the concept of like time dilation and space dilation and like. Are you familiar with this stuff? Like,
no, not at all.
Okay. So
I'm gonna need another beer for this.
Yeah.
Crack open a cold one.
So, time is people often refer to as the fourth dimension, right? That's like that. You've heard that people refer to it that way, right?
Yes.
So we live in a 3D spatial dimension, and we experience time in this kind of like conceptual way. It's just like seconds pass. And it just happens. Like from one moment to the next, things are happening. Yeah. The theory of relativity, like Einstein's theory of relativity, is entirely based around this concept that, the thing that blew the whole theory of conventional physics was when they found out that the speed of light is constant for any observer. So when you think about a typical situation, if I'm running down the street at 15 meters per second, and you're running next to me at 10 meters per second. Relative to you, I'm running 5 meters per second, right? Does that make sense? So if we're running down the track, and from the observer who's moving 10 meters per second, the person who's going 15 is only actually going 5 meters per second relative to them.
Right.
For instance, we're all on planet Earth right now. We're all moving at fucking millions of miles an hour through space around the sun. Yeah. But right now it's 0 miles per hour. Why? Because we're all experiencing it at the same time. It's all relative to who the observer is. What they found out about light is, regardless of how fast you're going, the speed of light is always 300,000 meters per second.
What are you fucking reading?
No, that's a real thing. That's a real fucking thing.
No, I'm not saying it's incorrect. I'm just saying, like, for you said you're not much of a reader. Clearly, you've been hitting the book.
I didn't read this shit. I didn't say I'm not much of a researcher. You think I read that shit? Fucking watch YouTube about that.
Clearly, he's been doing his research.
Well, okay.
Okay, we got to rewind, because that's super heavy shit. Can you repeat what you said?
The speed of light.
So the speed of what that chandelier is bringing down to, it's all the same.
Yes. It's all okay. So,
to us.
So the speed of light, for instance, if in a hypothetical situation, I was traveling through space in a rocket ship at 150,000 meters per second. I just said that light goes 300,000 meters per second, right? You would think that in that same analogy that I use of me running next to you and you're only going 5 meters per second, you would think that, okay, well, if I'm traveling next to a beam of light that's going 300,000 meters per second and I'm going 150,000 meters per second, that light compared to me is only just going half that speed, right?
Okay.
Because I'm traveling half as fast as that. But what they found out was that regardless of how fast you're going, if you measure the speed of light passing through you, it's always the same. It's always that fast, no matter how fast you're going. And the reason that's important is they found out that it's not that how did it manage to do that? How could it possibly be going the same speed even though I'm going faster? What they found was time and space itself would actually, this is something where I'm trying to delving into something that I'm not, obviously I haven't fucking figured it out, like what the fuck am I? But like you get to a point where time and space itself, seconds become longer, space expands. So now 1 meter is 2 meters. Now 1 second is 2 seconds, all in the name of keeping you relative to that one constant. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it actually does.
It's called...
But that just creates more magic. It's just like, whoa.
Well, also, but it's magic, but at the same time, it starts to make sense. So they do like...
because we're observing it, and that's what...
Time itself... Mr. Jockmans at Towson High School explained it quite well. If I'm standing in the ocean,
He was a
right?
great physics teacher.
Yeah, he was a great. I actually saw him at Mr. D's wedding. It was awesome. If you're standing in the ocean, let's say the waves are just hitting you at a constant pace, right? Every 5 seconds, a wave crashes across you. Now, let's say you start running to shore. Well, now all of a sudden, the waves aren't hitting you every 5 seconds because you're running away from. Now maybe they're only hitting you every 8 seconds. So your motion affects how fast time hits you. Yeah. So we're moving through this three-dimensional space. The faster you go, the slower time is for you. If you were physically able to travel at the speed of light, time would not affect you.
Right. Is that the Superman theory? If you were to go
revolve
around the Earth like a whole bunch of times, like you wouldn't age?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I guess that makes sense. I guess that makes sense.
I mean,
or like
kinda
the theory that like time travel would be traveling at the speed of light and then going to a certain time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's trippy only because what it suggests is, for instance, something that's interesting to think about. The sun is so far away from the Earth that it takes a beam of light, which is the fastest anything in the universe can travel. The speed of light is this universal constant, like nothing can surpass it. It's speed. It takes 8.5 minutes for a beam of light from the sun to reach Earth. So if the sun were to blow up, it would take 8.5 minutes on planet Earth before it would even affect us. It's the speed of not just light, it's the speed of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the speed of causality. Nothing can happen faster than the speed of light. If I am looking at a planet, if I am sitting here on planet Earth looking at a planet 1 light year away through a telescope, I'm seeing what that planet was 1 year ago.
Right. You're looking into the past, yeah.
So, but we're both existing at the same time, but I'm seeing something from the past.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so because nothing can happen faster than the speed of light, it all comes down to who's experiencing what, at what time, and where they are in space.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Well, that's like almost like when like a rumor spreads and it's like, or it's like you say something to someone about someone else and it's like, oh shit, I gotta tell that person before the other person rats me out. You know what I mean?
Energy.
Yeah, it's weird.
It suggests.
You ever taken acid?
No, but I've been talking heavily to Eric about
it. That sounds so much like acid talk, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean like when you take LSD, that sort of thing really makes sense. Where you're like, whoa, I describe acid as okay. You ever you stubbed your toe in a door, right? Mm-hmm. And you walk by the door and you stub your toe, and there's a moment you hit the door with your toe, and you know it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
But you're waiting for it.
Mm-hmm. Because it takes that fucking long.
That's like the acid space where you're like, I'm waiting to send the message to that guy, and that guy is not me. Mm-hmm. That kind of remind all that shit you were talking about. It kind of reminds me of like.
Well, what was okay?
Well, let's go even deeper. So we're just like light particles.
We are yes.
So we're traveling energy. So we don't really exist. We're kind of like we're constant explosions and constant like we. Okay, so the guys that walked into this door earlier are not the same guys. We're now new energy.
Yeah. So it's constant. Is that what you're saying? It's constantly
flow.
Like you're not even the same person. Like it's like completely different.
Yeah. But kind of does that kind of tie?
No, it makes perfect sense. It does.
Because we're light, right? I mean, we're basically light.
No,
so
we're
we
absolutely
traveling at that same speed.
That's what the whole E equals MC squared is about.
Yeah.
E equals MC squared is energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, meaning that everything is just
we're also
energy.
traveling. We're going. It looks like we're sitting here, but we're like fucking blasting through the universe.
Yeah.
Yes. No, definitely. I'm just like this goes so fucking. There was I could probably explain this without using a piece of paper.
Great for a podcast.
And I will try to do that because you're absolutely right. I should explain this without using a piece of paper. Okay. So,
You might need to grab a piece of paper though, Archie.
I don't have one.
I know. I got two. I got one for me, one for you.
So
you guys need to go to the marker board. You need a big, you need a dry erase board right here for when you guys go into these crazy conversations.
Dude.
Need this?
so
You want me to write some notes for you? You got a pen?
yes. Okay. Actually, okay. Yeah, just do it, and I will do my best to make sense of this without because this is a fucking podcast. This should be.
Yeah, no pressure. This is going to go on the internet forever.
Well,
Yeah.
no, we'll tweet the image of what Archie's.
Yeah.
What am I about to write? An equation?
You said to write the N word, but
yes.
and then sign
Yes,
your
and
name.
then sign it, and then we'll put it right under our video of you talking about white privilege.
This sounds like a trick.
The classic LFTS setup.
Sound
baby.
like physics at all.
It's the artwork for the fucking podcast.
God fucking damn it! It's this thing called flat. It's this imaginary world of It's a hypothetical
You're not going to
situation.
talk about flat Earth, are you?
No. I'm talking about what's called
distance between
I was like, oh
the
my
water does not curve. Water does not curve. God damn it! I'm disappointed in myself because I usually really understand this example, but.
Well, this has got to be the heaviest shit you've ever experienced on your podcast. We just covered E equals MC squared and traveling light. Like, I don't know where you're gonna get with this, but I got a pen. I'm ready to go. You got to dig yourself out of this hole. We need an equation here.
Okay.
Finish this bit, Jimmy.
Okay. So let's say we live in this world of what we call flatliners.
So what do I draw for that?
Just draw a face looking sideways. It's a two-dimensional world. Maybe I should be the one drawing this, and I can show you.
I think I'm gonna fuck this up if I draw it.
All right.
Okay.
So let's say these people live in a two-dimensional...
I'll just hold it up to the...
Yeah.
I'll just hold it
Yeah.
up at the end.
Let's say we live in a
I'll
two-dimensional
try to
world, right?
maybe like
Yeah,
fill
Eric,
in the blanks
you
because I can
narrate.
see it. Yeah.
Okay. So we live in this two-dimensional world where everybody only has up, down, and side to side. There's no depth. So a piece of paper is a perfect example, right?
Yeah.
We live on this plane.
And Jimmy's drawing like the profile of a face right now.
Yeah, I'm drawing the profile of a face, a guy looking sideways. See what I'm talking about? It's a guy looking sideways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, he looks at this guy, right? They're looking at each other in this two-dimensional plane.
Two guys just catching eyes.
Mm-hmm. Now, because I exist in a third dimension, there's two guys, two profiles looking at each other. But they're in a completely two-dimensional world. They're completely flat. So when the guy looks at the other guy's face, I'm going to show this. When the guy looks at the other guy's face, what does he see? What does he see when he looks at the other guy?
Just the profile.
He doesn't see a profile. We can see a profile because we're looking down at the piece of paper.
He
doesn't
sees the whole
exist.
face?
He just sees
The line.
the line.
Yeah.
The line. That's all he sees. He sees a fucking line. He doesn't. He's not existing in a place where he can look down and see the entirety, right? Because he exists in the second dimension. What the fourth dimension implies is that we live in
X, Y, and a Z.
We live in an X, Y, and a Z, and because we exist on that third dimensional plane, we don't have the ability, just like that guy in a two-dimensional plane.
X, Y, Z.
Yes. Just like that guy in a two-dimensional plane who there is clearly an entire profile of a face, a full face, but he sees a line. What we see as the present is only a small segment of what's actually there, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because we can't step into the fourth dimension, what we know as time, to see that it's already there in its entirety.
Yes, I understand.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's what that whole like Arrival movie was about, right? Did either of you see that?
This is where Eric gets me. I got books, Eric's got movies.
So if shit's coming at us at that from the fourth dimension, how do we don't know anything?
Yeah, well, that's what the whole Arrival movie was. So Arrival was like these aliens came to Earth and they try to talk to people. They don't seem violent at all. You know, they came down in a spaceship. They landed on Earth, And the government went out to go try to talk to him, and this like lead researcher really just wants to understand them, and like everyone else is just like, let's fucking nuke them. All the world governments are like, we're gonna fucking nuke these bitches, like yeah, like whatever. But this one researcher like keeps trying to understand them, and she's like cataloging all the different like weird things they do, the patterns that like they'll send out like these weird smoke circles, and like each of them would be different. And she learned that it was their way of communicating. It was their language. Mm-hmm. But once she finally understood their language, she started kind of like seeing these like weird flashbacks, but also they would be like flash forwards into the future because their language was based outside the construct of time. Like their whole language existed all at the same time. So once she understood it, then she saw like her daughter watching her die, but she thought it was like her daughter dying, or I don't know. It was something really weird. It was like a whole.
That's called Arrival.
Arrival, yeah.
Guys, if anybody's listening to this, please do yourself a favor and look up on YouTube. Type in Flatliner, and I think that's very common. But type in like Flatliner, Dimension, something like that. It's very interesting. What I was gonna say is, let me see that piece of paper real quick, Eric.
Yeah, dude, that's the front. Front.
So, I guess what it suggests about time is that, you know, if I lived in this cube and I was traveling along the planes of a cube, this is a terrible. It's almost probably better that you don't see this cube. Honestly, I think this is a terrible cube. I think people now understand a cube less now that I've drawn one. If I was traveling through this three-dimensional cube, let's say I'm this little dot. Right? And I just travel in a straight line through the cube. And I'm a little dot. I live in a one-dimensional plane. I go in one little direction. Bingo. That's it. I can't see side to side. I can only see behind me, and I can see forward. But this cube already exists. Now I'm traveling through this cube, and a cube, as we know, is just a series of squares, right? Just stacked back to back to back to back in a third-dimensional plane. And so it's that many squares to the back, and then that makes it the cube because it's a square, and then it goes back depth-wise, and that makes it a cube. So I'm traveling through this cube, just literally through it. And at each time I cross into a new square in that cube, because my concept, I have no idea that this cube is actually a cube in its entirety, because I live in this little fucking world where I'm like in a two-dimensional world or something like that. I just see each new space along that cube as a new two-dimensional plane, as a new thing, as a new event. So I'm traveling through this cube, and instead of traveling through each square and going like that, oh, this is a cube. No, I just see it as a bunch of little tiny squares. The idea of it being a cube is so foreign to me. I guess what it's suggesting about time is that at every single moment, we're experiencing, at the speed of light. At the speed of light, we are experiencing a little frame of our three-dimensional existence.
Yeah, and is that like kind of what people talk about, like right before they die, or like right before like you see your life flash before your eyes, like
yeah,
and like the speed of light? That's kind of like a trippy thing. Like,
seems to be.
Is that you like entering the fourth dimension? Is that like the fucking like?
I guess it would be. I guess it would be, because you're
maybe
leaving that.
Yeah, when you shed these human perceptions and what we think is real, maybe you're embracing the
when like the final social construct, life, is shattered.
That is the ultimate social construct. That is the ultimate social construct.
Yes. Hey, any Marxist or communist out there, just life is,
How about life
society
is your
is
social
just
construct?
Yeah,
Never
man.
talk about
Think
that.
about
That's a great
that.
point.
Can you fucking
Think
like,
about
just-
that, Jordan Peterson. Fucking see me, boy.
Your whole
See
fucking life
me.
is a social construct.
Well, the thing is, it almost
That's heavy, man.
when you get to that point,
Jesus
then
Christ,
what is
my
it?
brain is scrambled.
Just to
right?
to lighten
fucking like.
to lighten it up
I feel
a
like
little
I
bit.
need to like calm down. I need like a chaser
Welcome
of
back
acid.
To the physics podcast.
I need from just his normal ass
Yeah, well, when you're
conversation. where I
traveling
need
through the astral
psychedelics.
plane of the fucking I thought I was here to plug my comedy shows, and now we're traveling through cubes, and I'm what? I'm light.
To lighten it up, I will say this: all that
This is
suggests,
fucking sick.
all that suggests is if we accept that representation of our universe, then we are accepting that because time is already there, much like that cube, and we experience that cube in a series of squares, does that mean that all time has already happened and it's just our motion through space that dictates our experience of it? Because that's what that would suggest. It means that our consciousness is only an illusion. Our idea of control over what happens to us or over the world, that's what consciousness is. It's us experiencing our journey through the fourth dimension, which kind of sucks because...
Is there free will?
Yes. I would like to think there is, because what if my destiny is to suck?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Some people would like hearing that. That's the idea of God. God has a plan. That's what I was saying. Religion is pop philosophy. This, what I just described to you, is God. That's what people are talking about.
Right.
That's what people are talking about. God has a plan.
Right.
Everything will work out. Everything happens for a reason. Everything is going, this is your destiny. What the fuck is
But
destiny?
they never say you're just a particle.
Because that's the scientific representation of it. And people get so caught up in, well, this is science, and this is religion, and just not this.
Right.
We're Democrats, and you're Republicans.
Yeah, you have
and
it all.
No, you're figuring out the same
right.
shit, dude.
Right.
But so I don't know.
Well, that's kind of why I like life. I like having more unknowns than knowns. I like having that.
It's
that sense of fear, not fear, but it's just like
it's a sense of fear, but at the same time, because you're
it's
scared.
the beautiful unknown. When you look at the stars, you don't really want to know all that shit, right? You kind of look it up and you look at wonderment, right? You
No, that's like old school TV, dude. Like that's just something to fucking numb your mind right before you go to bed. Like that's like nature's fucking calm down.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't
it's
want to
crazy.
know because you're scared of what you might find out, and you're scared that you might find out something that you don't like. That's why I don't want to fucking do acid.
Well, we're
That's why I
kind
don't
of.
want to do acid.
Oh no, you would. No, you would. No, don't. You would love it, dude.
That's
You're
why.
a smart cat too. You would.
That's
you
why
would,
I
you would love
fucking
it.
sit there and I'm like,
I'll tell you
if I
what.
do acid?
You'll piece together the rest of the back half of that
Yeah,
notebook.
yeah,
and do
yeah.
acid.
This paper
Finally
really
figure
fucking
out
makes sense,
what the
dude.
back of a cube looks like.
But that's really all it comes down to. I find myself all the time sitting and just thinking like, man, I do find myself all the time finding solace in the idea that maybe it's not my fault. You know? But you see what I'm talking about? That's
yeah.
just...
I love that kind of shit, dude. I love that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I think I need to
It's
read
like,
more. I need to read some books.
Jimmy is just like becoming the smartest person on earth.
Yeah, Jimmy
To,
goes.
like,
I don't
to
really
be like,
read.
all
I don't
right,
really read much, but
I just don't want it to be
pass
my
me
fault.
that notebook. Okay, so we're traveling particulates. I'm like, oh my god, this motherfucker is so much smarter than I thought. I thought we were going to talk about Riley's Oyster House. on
You knew we
Thursday
weren't
night.
going to talk about Riley's Oyster House, you asshole.
Yeah,
You
dude,
knew
on
we
the
weren't
way
gonna talk
here, you knew we weren't talking about that
No,
shit.
I know.